coming out tonight. I know this morning was quite a rainy and dreary day, so I'm glad the day has improved a little bit and we've got a few people that we do here today. Firstly, I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to give a special thank you to Joshua, who is here as a part of the IPRES conference that I am currently attending. He is from the Illinois State Archives in Springfield, and he's made his way over here after a long day of attending conference sessions, and he was able to join us for one more. I know that many of you are unfamiliar with me, or at least one person in the crowd is. I'm the museum manager for the Champaign County History Museum. My name is Will Best. I've been with the organization since February as a volunteer, where I assisted the museum with their collections and archival needs, and I became the museum manager in early August as Connor Munson pursued further studies in graduate school, and so we always wish him the best of luck in his future endeavors. Now, let me go ahead and introduce our speaker and tell you a little bit more about him. Brian Adams is an archaeologist for the Illinois State Archaeological Survey at the University of Illinois. He has previously served on the Illinois Historic Sites Advisory Council and has sat on the board of the Preservation and Conservation Association of Champaign County, better known as PACA, and the Illinois Archaeological Survey. The topic of tonight's talk was spurred on by an interest brought about by Brian's renovations of two historic homes that he's lived in Urbana. It was during this process that he discovered and became engrossed with the works and life of local architect Joseph William Royer. In 2011, he published a biography of Royer's life and successfully nominated several local buildings and structures as local historic landmarks and to the National Registry of Historic Places. Today's talk will discuss one of Royer's more famous structures that looms over downtown Urbana, the Lincoln Hotel, that is currently undergoing renovations to reopen with a new name to honor its architect as the Royer Hotel. Now, let's welcome our speaker, Brian Adams.
Thanks, Will, and thanks everyone for coming out on this kind of stormy, gloomy day. I hope to tell you some things about the hotel, given that it's not only coming up on its 100th birthday in November, but also eventually it will be brought up to its former glory and become kind of a centerpiece for downtown Urbana. So yeah, we'll just get started here real quick. So I'll just give you a few bullet points about the hotel, and then I'll go into some more details about different aspects of its history. So it was built on the site of what was called the Union Hotel or Kerr's Tavern, and Lincoln would stay at this place when he would come into town on the circuit. And I'll show you some location of where that building used to be. So that's the original Lincoln connection. That's where that comes from. Urbana architect Joseph William Royer was designated the architect for the new hotel in 1922. It's built in the Tudor Gothic architectural style. It was advertised as a fireproof building of reinforced steel construction, kind of state-of-the-art for that time. Cost was about $375,000, which doesn't sound like a lot today, but back then it was quite a chunk of money. It was named by popular vote in memory of President Abraham Lincoln, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. And it was dedicated on Homecoming Day in 1923. Later in its history, Lincoln Square Mall, which was designed by noted modern architect Victor Gruen in 1964, he designed the mall, which was built adjacent to the hotel, and actually the facade of the original hotel has been incorporated into the mall. And as a result of this upgrade, the rear of the hotel, which is what we see today from across the street from the library, Urbana Library, that's the main entrance now, but that used to be in the back of the hotel. We'll see some more about that in a minute. In 1983, an addition was constructed to the north side of the hotel, which for years was run by Jumers, which is a hotel chain. It was the mall and the hotel were both listed on the National Register of Historic Places in 2006. And in 2010, the hotel itself was designated an Urbana local landmark. So it's got a lot of history, a lot of recognitions for its history. So that's basically just a quick rundown of the building. So let's go back to the very beginning. The hotel was built on the site of the Union Hotel, or as it was known by locals as Baldy's Tavern in Urbana. That's a picture of, not because he was bald, but because his name is Archibald. But it was a small building compared to what's there now. It was a small 1.5-story building facing to the east. Very simple. There was no porches. There was a well and a pump in the front yard, and a cistern in the backyard, and a horse barn. And in April of 1900, it was torn down. So it's been gone for a long time, but it still has the connection with Lincoln, who was apparently a very good friend of the Kerr family. When he would come into town on his rounds of the different courthouses, he would stay at the Union Hotel. And so here you can see from the 1858 map of Urbana. You can see right here, this little corner block here is A.M. Care, Archibald Care, or Kerr, I'm not sure how you say it. And it's labeled here as the Union Hotel. So this was the original location of the hotel where Lincoln stayed. Looking at the 1887 Sanborn fire insurance map, you can get a better sense of, here's what I'm sure is still the hotel, since it was torn down in 1900, but this is probably still the building that was the Union Hotel. And eventually, the newer hotel, the one that we have today, would occupy these 3 lots on this block. So you can see how the scale of the hotel was changed considerably since it was the Union Hotel. And here's the 1924 Sanborn fire insurance map. So here you can see the footprint of the actual Urbana-Lincoln Hotel. So the original hotel that Baldy's Tavern would have been right here, kind of in the front yard. So again, that's the Lincoln connection. He never actually slept in Royer's Hotel, obviously. One of the relatives of Archibald Kerr left some accounts of her reminiscence of Lincoln, because again, he was a very good friend of the family. And this is one of the, I found this in the archives at the Urbana Free Library, but she wrote that, you can read the text here, I'll kind of paraphrase, but basically Lincoln really liked the tavern, and he really liked the biscuits that they made there. So he would always order some biscuits. And apparently they went in to put some biscuits into the stove, and the cat jumped out. And so they figured that the cat must have crawled in there to keep warm or something. But it was getting late, they really had to get the biscuits made. And so they decided that, well, do we just not bake them, and not let him know about it, or should we just go ahead and bake them and not tell him? And apparently they didn't want to disappoint Lincoln, so they went ahead and baked the biscuits in the oven. And it is said that Mr. Lincoln ate his hot biscuits with great relish that day. So jumping ahead now to the 1900s, talk a little bit about Joseph Royer, the architect. He was born in Urbana, 1873. He got his degree from the U of I and studied with, at that time, Nathan Ricker was the head of the department, and he studied under Professor White, who designed a lot of the buildings on campus of the U of I. After he graduated, he went to Chicago and he interned at a couple of architectural firms, came back to Urbana and served as the city engineer for a while. And in 1897, from what I have been able to find out, is when he started to design houses for and buildings in Urbana and the region. In 1902, he married Adelaide Danley of Urbana. In 1921, he was inducted into the American Institute of Architects. As far as I can tell, the last building he designed was the Homer Elementary School, 1954. And soon after that, he passed away from a heart attack at the age of 81. So far I've been able to identify about 206 Royer projects. Most of these are in the state of Illinois. Obviously there's a lot here in Champaign-Urbana, but he did have designs, buildings down in Cairo, as far south as Cairo, up into just south of Chicago. And then he also had projects extending into Indiana, Iowa, and even as far away as North Carolina and way up in northern Wisconsin. And he's known for commonly using historical revival styles. So Lincoln Hotel is in the Tudor revival style. Did buildings in the classical revival style. But, so that's what he's really well known for. And these are some examples of some of his buildings. He did a whole range of different types of buildings, schools, courthouses, and residences. One of my favorites is this schoolhouse in Dubuque, Iowa. Very Gothic-looking building. This is a house in Urbana on Elm Street, the Freeman Busey House from 1902. Almost was torn down in 2007, but at that time I was living in the neighborhood, and a bunch of us in the neighborhood grouped together and were able to prevent it from being torn down, and it was made a local landmark, which it still is today. It's a rental property, and it's showing its age, but inside there's still some beautiful fireplaces and beautiful woodwork, so it's really an impressive building. He did a lot of courthouses here in Illinois and also in Iowa and in Indiana. Of course, the Champaign County Courthouse on the left, and the Piatt County Courthouse in Monticello. These two are more local projects. He even designed his own residence for he and his wife, which is the house here on 801 West Oregon Street in Urbana. And he also owned the property, so this is facing Urbana, this is the entrance facade, but on the other side of the building there's this little house, little cottage, and he designed that in the 1920s for his mother-in-law. It's the mother-in-law cottage. And these were both declared, well, actually, the two together were declared Urbana's first historic district back in 2000, 2001, I think. And then they were recently put on the National Register of Historic Places. And this is a rental too, but the owner of it's very careful about who he lets rent it. He's done a big renovation of the building, so we think it's in good hands. But it's not far from the hotel, so if you haven't seen them before, it's worth a walk down Oregon Street just before you get to Lincoln Avenue. So in 1921, the Urbana Hotel Company was incorporated with Mary Busey as the chairman. She was the wife of Colonel Samuel Busey, who was a Civil War hero, one of the founders of Busey Bank. And then there was a list of directors here, which include the mayor of Urbana at the time. And there was a huge campaign to raise money to finance the hotel. So almost every day in the newspaper there were ads to buy stock in the new hotel. You could buy a share for $100. They even wrote a hotel song that encouraged people to sing in praise of the hotel, just to keep it on everybody's mind. When Royer submitted his design for the hotel, the board initially rejected it. The Courier wrote in 1925, after the hotel as we know it was built, that the first plan was the usual rectangular box-like structure, and they wanted something distinctive, so they told them to go back to the drawing board. And this is an image of one of the early designs of what it could have looked like. But eventually his new design was accepted, and this is a picture of his sketch when it was approved. and it got a big write-up, and it's a monument to Urbana's civic pride. The community was very happy that the plans were accepted. This was in September of 1922. And it even was picked up by some of the local trade journals. This is from the National Builder, and they were praising that he entirely avoided the commonplace small city commercial hotel shape. In place of the usual rectangular building, the building is irregular in shape in order to form a more home-like setting for the building. And again, this is a Royer sketch of what he intended to produce. After I had done some research, I came across this image of a hotel in Connecticut called the Pickwick Arms, and I was kind of amazed how similar it looked to the hotel in Urbana. And I don't have any evidence of this, but I'm just wondering if, when he was sent back to the drawing board, he started looking at different designs, because this was built just before his plan was approved. So I'm wondering if he came across this and he was inspired by it, because it's very similar with this kind of asymmetrical tower here, the bending of the arms of the hotel on either side. So hopefully in the future maybe come across something that record of him, considering this as inspiration for his design. So soon after the designs were approved, preparations got underway immediately. The contractor was chosen, E.W. Stuhlman Construction Company, which built a lot of the buildings in Urbana and the community around here. The hotel permit, the building permit was issued in the next month, in October of 1922. And soon after, they were already starting to prepare the site, so any buildings that were there, probably including the tavern that used to be there, they just leveled. You can see, I think that's the back of what this crane used to be crane over there.
Mm-hmm.
But they basically just leveled everything that was on those three lots. Within 2 months, the foundations had been laid and the walls were all ready to go up. Where he was saying that the first shipment of structural steel is on the ground, face bricks have arrived, and we expect the building stone within 10 days. And they were anticipating that they would have it all enclosed by February. And these are some photos that they have in the Urbana archive, the Champaign County Archives in Urbana, of the hotel under construction. This is looking south, towards the south. And you can see that they pretty much got the entire structure built. They're still putting in the windows. Still got some scaffolding back here, but this is probably the following spring of 2023. There's some more pictures of it under construction. That's the old city hall that is now a parking garage. It's kind of interesting to see the horse wagons hauling all the supplies. One big crisis was, what were they going to call the hotel? What could they name it? So the Courier ran a contest. You could submit your suggestion for what the hotel should be named and write it on this little slip of paper in the newspaper and send it into the Courier. And they just got flooded with names for the hotel. And these are just a sampling of so what people submitted is just kind of all over the map. Call it
Titanic.
The ostrich, I don't know where that would come from. Titanic, maybe because Titanic had some 10 years before or so. The Honeydew, the Urbana Tavern, kind of would go back to the early days. But yeah, this is just a sampling of. I mean, if you go online, you can call up the Courier for around this time, and at one point they published all the names that were submitted. So. But ultimately, what they chose was a combination of Urbana and Lincoln, and you can read the text there. But basically, it was because they thought it was a community endeavor. People pitched in money to build the hotel, so they were proud that Urbana had done it, but also it was in recognition of Lincoln staying at the Union Hotel that used to stay there, and it would be a link with that period when Lincoln was here in the community, and so Urbana-Lincoln was officially chosen as the hotel's name. And then here's the announcement for one of the papers about the official opening. It was opened on Homecoming Day in November 4th, 1923. Several pictures of it exist. So now today, if you go into Lincoln Square Mall, you can see the entrance. That's what you're looking at right there, but you don't really get any sense of the facade anymore. It's changed so much. And this is a view of a part of the building that you don't really ever see, because this is, I think you can just barely see this if you walk in from the post office side. You can barely see this side of the building, this little wing here. But most of that's been covered up by the big addition on the north side of the building. And it got a lot of coverage. A lot of the trade journals picked up on the hotel. They were very impressed with the unique architecture of it. Wrote up a lot of articles on it. Just the various architectural trade journals really caught on to it. So if we got to go from the bottom to the top of the hotel, what was there originally? The first floor consisted of the lobby here, the main dining room here. There was a small grill attached to the main dining room. And then the Great Hall, which was this very impressive part of the building that sticks out to the northwest. And actually, here's the entrance, which is now enclosed in the mall, and the back of the Great Hall is sort of replaced as part of the current entrance to the hotel. So here's a picture from when the hotel first opened of the lobby. You can see it's very medieval looking, Tudor looking, with the big beams on the ceiling, all this heavy woodwork, which was really in fashion back then. Same with the main dining room. Very, very, very castle-like and fortress-looking, with you can kind of make out the beams here and these huge squat columns and the chandeliers that look like candles and the columns. Apparently, it was a very classy place to go. I mean, they would serve. Here's an example of one of the later menus from a couple years after it opened, but you can see they've got prime rib, milk-fed chicken, filet mignon, poached eggs. So this was a very, very upscale kind of place to go. Adjacent to the main dining area was a grill, and it was kind of a smaller place. Maybe you'd go in for breakfast or just lunch if you didn't want a big meal. And then this is that great hall that sticks out to the northwest. This was like the pride and joy, the big selling point of the hotel. Here it stresses how it really captures the feeling of the great halls of the Tudor period. And it's got the beams on the ceiling, and it's got this huge fireplace at the end. And this is a later postcard of the same building. It's kind of gaudy, but you still get a sense of how elegant it was, and the fireplace here, and the chandeliers. It really was the place to go if you wanted to have a big formal event. And in the Daily Illini advertised it for the ideal place for fraternity and sorority formals, and they urged people to make your reservations soon because it gets booked quickly. And I'm kind of curious how it's going to look when they open a hotel up again, if they're going to really play up its use as a formal place for dances, things like that. I haven't heard anything, but be nice if they would. Okay, so going down, there is a basement in the building. This was mainly for shops, laundry, and storage. The area under the Great Hall was unexcavated, so there's just kind of a mix. I don't know what's down there now, but apparently they had some shops, a boiler room down there. The second and third floor were the guest rooms were mainly located, and some of them apparently had full bathrooms, some of them had just a toilet and a sink. And this is what a typical room looked at when the hotel opened. They're pretty Spartan compared to what we have today, but this was considered luxurious living back then. And then the fourth floor, or the attic, this is where the lower priced rooms were. Again, some rooms have just a sink and a toilet, others, I think some of them do have bathtubs and closets, but smaller than the rooms on the lower levels. And then these are some cross sections that are shown to emphasize, the solid steel skeleton frame construction of the building here. That's the entrance there, which you can see how they're showing how well and sturdy the hotel is built. They hired the first manager of the hotel was a man named Charles Renner. He owned and worked at several hotels throughout the Midwest. One place that's very interesting, and I'll kind of go off on a little tangent here, was that he operated hotels for the Harvey restaurant chain along the Santa Fe line in Albuquerque, one of the hotels in Albuquerque. And just to go off on a tangent, just to show what a big deal was at that time, Fred Harvey established a string of hotels because back then, in the early days of railroads, you never knew where you were going to eat, and sometimes you would make a stop, and the restaurant or the place to eat there would be just like a little shed with food that might be barely edible. So Fred Harvey established this chain of upscale restaurants along the route of the Santa Fe line, and staffed them with what became known as the Harvey Girls, and they were very well-trained hostesses who lived under very strict conditions. They treated their guests right, and so that was Mr. Renner. Prior to coming to Urbana, he ran one of the hotels, and of course, the Harvey Girls inspired the movie with Judy Garland. I'm getting a little off topic here, but one of the famous songs was on the Atchison Creek in the Santa Fe. I just couldn't resist putting that in. But this is the hotel where he managed for a while. Apparently, it's been torn down, doesn't exist anymore. But it was a large, very elegant hotel right along the railroad tracks there. So he came in, pretty experienced with this high quality hotel and high quality service. So they were very proud to be able to hire him to run the hotel. Another story that's tied to the hotel is the Lincoln the lawyer statue. It was designed by Laredo Taft, who was a local sculptor here. Built a lot of sculptures throughout the state, but he was hired to create a statue put in front of the hotel. And this is his Lincoln the lawyer statue. And he stated when they interviewed him that he didn't want to show Lincoln as we knew him from the Civil War years, when he was, worn out and tired of, the whole pressure of running the country during that time. He wanted to show him as he would have been known in Urbana as a lawyer on the circuit, kind of confident, making his case. And so that was what the statue was eventually placed in front of the entrance to the hotel. But there were some legal issues that came up about ownership and maintenance of it. So it was eventually moved to Carl Park in Urbana, across from the high school. So going ahead a few decades into the 1960s, when Lincoln Square Mall was planned, and they started to build it. Basically tore down any houses that were still existed in the vicinity of the hotel, excavated this huge basement. And you can see here the hotel going up in August of '63. And then 1983, the Jumers addition was added to the hotel. Kind of overshadows the original Royer Hotel. And I just included these to give you some sense of what you see today. So this black area shows how big and expansive Lincoln Square Mall is. Here's the original Royer Hotel, and then this is that northern edition. So it's really been kind of boxed in by all the subsequent construction. This used to be the entrance right here, but like I said before, now when you go to park over here, your Urbana Free Library is over here. But if you park here, and the entrance to the hotel now is here, actually, which was once the back of the hotel.
Where was the original main entrance of the hotel? The back?
Right here.
That was the main entrance.
So,
Yeah. So the doors that you see in the mall were the original facade of the front.
Yeah.
It's Balderrada.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can kind of, if you stand right here and you look up here towards the post office, and you look over here towards the entrance across from the library, that would have been this intersection right here, and that's where the Lincoln statue would have been right about here.
Yeah.
Right
in the middle of the court.
They interrupted Green Street.
So here's an aerial photo of the same thing. So here you can see the hotel. It's basically up to the first floor is covered up by the mall. Here's the northern addition. Here's the current entrance is right here, and this is where you would have come into the hotel when it was first built. And you can just get some sense of how massive the mall is compared to the hotel, and it's amazing that it survived. So this, yeah, it opened up in September of '64. So here's that front entrance. So here's what you see today. I think if you go over to the right, there's I don't know what it's called now, there's a grill or a cafe over there.
It's called Balderrada's.
Is that what it is?
It's a really good restaurant.
It's been a while. I used to live in Urbana, but it's changed so much since I left. But
It's really good.
okay. But yeah, and there used to be it's called loggia, this thing right here, over the original entrance, but they had to take it down in order to make it, to attach the mall to the hotel. So that's a pretty massive piece of architecture that went away. And then here's what I was saying before about the entrance now is this area right here, and this parking lot across from the Urbana Free Library. There's the Great Hall sticking out there. And this is what was Jumers before they started to renovate it. And then here's the southeast wing, or southwest wing of the original Royer building. And here's pretty much what you see today. If you go around the mall, you can just barely see the original hotel peeking above the mall. So hopefully, with Hotel Royer, it'll be a new beginning for the building. I took this picture a couple days ago, so that's what was the Jumers edition, and I think it's starting to look really nice. And here you can see a little bit of the Great Hall here, and here is the current entrance, part of the current entrance to the building. So that's all I got. Yeah. So yeah, again, hopefully they will get this opened up soon. I know they keep pushing the time back, so now it's February, I think, before they're going to open up. But there's a lot of activity around there. I was out there last week and taking these pictures, and it seems like they're really moving forward, and just fingers crossed that it kind of gets back to that status that it had when it first opened, is like the pride of downtown Urbana. So that's all I have tonight. If you have any questions, I can stick around and answer them.
When I was a kid, the ballroom was known as the Lincoln Room.
Okay.
And above the fireplace was this huge standing portrait of Lincoln.
Really?
So when you walked in, that's the first thing you saw was this huge portrait of Lincoln. Of course, I was about 6 or 7, so
Uh-huh.
everything was big and impressive. But I don't remember the fireplace at all, I just remember the painting.
Okay,
But when you walked in, it was still very red.
okay.
And this tall painting of Lincoln above the fireplace.
I hadn't heard that story. I read that at one point there was a plaque, like a bronze plaque of the Gettysburg Address that was on one of the walls of the
Well, I'm
lobby.
sure there was.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'd be nice to know what happened to the Lincoln portion.
Yeah.
I think it had so many subsequent owners over the years, a lot of that
Well,
disappeared.
when Zoomers came in, they kept the old world feeling,
Mhm.
but they got rid of all the Lincoln stuff and replaced it with stuffed animals and things, which was okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Just different.
Yeah.
So in the earlier sketches, it looked like they were proposing 3 fireplaces, like one in the center and maybe on one of each of the wings?
Oh, for,
Like, at
Different.
like the very beginning of your presentation when you were, like when he was proposing the renderings, I guess.
okay.
And do you know how many fireplaces they ended up with? Like there would have been the one in the Great Hall and then maybe
Yeah.
one somewhere in the grill or the main dining?
I don't know.
Okay,
When Zoomers was there was one in the lobby.
okay.
Just as you came in the door and you come in from the mall, you come in from the door and you make a turn, and there was a fireplace in the lobby.
So I guess one question is, are all of those chimneys
Yeah, that's a
actual
good question.
fireplaces?
That's a good question. Yeah, because you can
Yeah.
see one there, looks like there's one there.
Mhm.
I never,
They're really good for pouring boiling oil on it.
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can see.
There they are.
I can see the 2 there. It seems like
So maybe they only ended up with 2, too.
could be.
I mean, how do they function?
That's the one in the front.
Mhm.
I only found these plans because they were published in one of those trade journals.
Oh.
I've never seen the actual blueprints. I don't know if they still exist somewhere. Yeah, so there should be a chimney that comes out the back.
Yeah.
That the board's
Like a great hall.
I remember him standing, but
I bet
I remember I was.
When Zoomers
sad.
came in and renovated the
But
building,
yeah,
and
there was
had
a
the
portrait
Great Hall
of
turned into the entrance, they had to take out the fireplace.
That could
There's-
be. Let's see this.
Oh, go back to the lobby. I'm sure
Oh,
there's one in
gosh.
the lobby.
So that the previous frame, I think was the floor plan.
Yeah.
You got the lobby there, there's a porch,
Yeah, and there says
you can see
fireplace
fireplace
there.
there.
And in the grill room at the south, that kind of,
Yeah,
that
there's-
looks
Oh,
like a
right.
fireplace
Yeah, right there.
there. as
Yeah.
well.
Mhm.
But nothing over in the other wing speaks to me as a fireplace. Okay,
Hmm.
I'm curious.
artistic license.
Oh, there's 2 chimneys.
There are 2 chimneys, and one is clearly near the grill.
Yeah.
And the other one does look like it's in the proper space to be like right at the lobby, yeah.
But in the earlier drawings, like on the
Mhm.
your first panel or whatever, oh, so even on that one magazine that you just passed, there, that's a rendering and it looks
Yeah.
like they're proposing 3
Yeah. But I don't think that 3rd one got built.
there.
Yeah, there is, yeah, there's 3 there.
Yeah, there.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Lobby and the grill.
Oh, so
Probably
that's the back end of the
a
Great
small-
Hall. Okay.
A small
That's
thing in the middle.
1922, so that's probably when it was under construction, so we're probably working off those plans.
Yeah. The one, yeah, because,
They never built that.
Yeah,
yeah, there's
it's
one.
a good point.
I'll go back and see. Here you can kind of see it.
You can see the grill.
Which floor plan you need?
The grill is here, so that's the one that's over by the grill side,
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, there's definitely 3 in the original drawings.
Yeah,
So that kind of be like where the fire escape is, right?
yeah,
Yeah, it would be. Mhm.
that's interesting. There it is again.
Yeah, right there, sketch of
Well, it certainly is quite a bit different than his original
Yeah.
sketch.
Yeah.
Usually the sandboards are pretty good about
Yeah.
that kind of stuff.
Noting fire hazards. I think fireplace would be a fire hazard.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, well. I'll have to see if I can find out. We'll go back to the very first one. Yeah, so now there's a mystery, is it? Two chimneys, three chimneys? 4 chimneys?
Many chimneys.
Many chimneys.
So, okay, so that is showing the loggia, or however you say it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I think that grill, they said that the grill was over here somewhere, and it overlooked the
Mhm.
front, the lawn in front of the building.
And so the front entrance looks like it would have had those 2 rooms right above the entrance, maybe had bump outs or whatever.
Mhm.
And so those would have then also been obscured by the
Hotel, the
mall.
Mhm. Well, I wonder if in the images of the mall, did they just build over them, or did they remove that section and just brick it over?
I don't know.
Well, the
Yeah.
stairs are still there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Mhm.
You mean the little balcony area?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's still there.
Mhm.
It'd be interesting to look at the plans for the mall, because I'm sure that they explained what they were gonna do at the hotel to make it all fit
There are
together.
clearly windows that look into that restaurant.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah, it'd be good, it'd be nice to take, I haven't done it, but to take like this is an old postcard, and just to walk around the building as it is now, and see how much of that is still there, or maybe covered up, or, and I think, isn't there an entrance to a tavern
Mhm.
Yes.
over here?
From
the
mall,
They
the
have
Brown
to
Bear.
open
There's
that up.
2 of them. There's, I think the one closest to the outside is called like the Alumni Tap.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there was one that was closer in, I think that maybe went into storage or
Okay.
something.
Do you know if have you heard if they're gonna?
So what used to be the tap is now gonna be a fitness center, so there won't be connectivity between the 2. But I think
Okay.
they're maintaining the facade that's inside the mall.
Okay. This whole part here is one part that I think you really don't get a sense of anymore.
Yeah, you can't even
It's
see
so
it.
covered up by the mall and that.
And Joomer's
and
covers it.
Juniper's.
Mhm.
So that's
Yeah.
kind of interesting to see those images of that wing of it.
Mhm.
It's just not there anymore.
Is there a reason why the city decided to remove the intersection of Broadway and Green to include the mall as a part of that?
It was 1963.
And they built a parking lot there, so I think
Yeah.
that's probably the major reason they did it.
It-
It was not, there was 8 blocks that they get a hold of and they'd buy the whole thing.
Okay.
So that's where they.
I mean, and they just like knocked out a bunch of houses.
And they advertised it that the Green Street ran through the middle of it and Broadway ran through the middle of it, and that you didn't have to go outside to cross. You know, you went inside and you did all your shopping and you didn't have to go outside.
There were
There's-
streets that you weren't.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it was very publicized like that.
Was it fully enclosed
Oh,
at
yes.
the time?
Oh,
Like at the
yes.
very beginning
Mhm.
with doors and glass and everything? It
Mhm.
wasn't like an open passageway?
No, it was
Okay.
totally enclosed. Yeah.
That was one of the first big malls to be built during that
It was
whole
enclosed.
Yeah.
craze of building malls. And I think that Victor Green was known for designing malls. So he was like state of the art.
But they stipulated that the hotel had to be included.
Yeah.
So
Which
it had to
is
be
amazing.
incorporated into the mall because they thought people would come, the shopping would be a destination,
Yeah.
and they would stay at the hotel to go
Oh,
shopping.
God.
And it was.
Well, I was-
I mean, people came from Decatur and spent the weekend
Yeah.
and shopped.
Well, I was telling Will, I came back to Urbana at 88 to go back to school, and my wife used to work at Cranor, and she said the hotel at that time was still in good enough shape that they would put acts up in a hotel. They would rent rooms for performing actors in the hotel. It was still, kind of an upscale.
It was still Jumers,
Yeah.
yeah, it was still Jumers.
But you can tell that that was one of the first indoor malls in the country because it was so small.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
They hadn't really got the idea yet, but they were experimenting with it.
Right.
Here.
Well, didn't they build the Lincoln Mall in response to Marketplace? The
No.
plans for that?
No,
No.
Oh, no.
long before.
It was long before.
Yeah, Marketplace didn't show up till 70, was it 75?
Okay.
76? Yeah.
That's 75.
Yeah, I got a hold of the National Register nomination for the mall, and it also has a short discussion of the hotel, but it's like that thick, so I think there's probably a lot of good information there. I didn't read so much up on that as the Lincoln Hotel, but there's probably a lot of history in there that if you sat down with it and read it carefully, you could learn a lot more about the justification and why they did this, why they did that.
Well, it was an amazing place when it was first opened, because there was nothing like that
Yeah.
anywhere.
And full of
It was full, every
Of
shop
stuff,
was
yes.
full, and every shop was unique.
Carson's.
Everything was unique, yeah.
Wasn't there a statue in there, a famous statue of a whale?
There was a whale and a bear,
And a bear.
were there three of them?
And kids used to climb. We played on the
No,
whale,
no buffalo.
which
But,
today
yeah,
would be never allowed. But
And they had,
What happened to those?
2 large fish tanks. Do
and
you remember
large
those, Mary?
fish tanks.
Fish tanks.
Yeah.
The whale, one of them.
They were like octagonal?
The park by the Thornton Building. Isn't the whale by the Thornton Building in Urbana? They moved him out, but.
I don't know where he went.
Was one of them, is one of them a bear?
Yeah,
That one, I'm wondering, is that the one that ended up over there by Monocle's Pizza over on
No.
Meyer? Is that a separate one?
separate bear.
Okay.
Just multiple
But they had
sections.
one,
Well,
the
they're
fish
very large,
tank, the fish
smoky
tanks were
looking.
wonderful.
They were.
Yeah.
You could walk all the way around. They were
Yeah,
octagonal.
Fish
You could-
tanks.
When I was a kid, I was fascinated by the fish tanks.
And
Yeah.
then just eventually the hotel kind of went downhill and.
Actually, it went downhill about the same time the mall did. Because when Jumers bought it, they did a lot of redecorating, they added a pool, they added a conference center, and it was a really big going concern until the early 90s, maybe?
Weren't they known for their buffet, like Sunday buffet?
Yes, they were known
in
for
the
their,
80s and
yeah.
90s?
And they had, just like the Urbana-Lincoln, they had a library area where you could eat, or they had the big ballroom, and they had, and there was another snack area, and then the little bar that was down on the lower level. And it was about the time that the big department stores left the mall, Jumers imploded, and that
Mhm.
was kind of like the beginning of the end for it. Yeah, everything went at once. Yeah.
And then did it sit empty? So.
How long has it been empty? Does anybody know?
The hotel?
Yeah, 20 years, 20?
Well, let's see. We were there for a Christmas thing in 2005,
Mhm.
and it was still Jumers.
It was, yep.
So
Somebody
15 years maybe?
Somebody bought it, I think it was a guy from California,
Yeah, we didn't do much
and
with
he
it.
was, I think took on more than he could do,
Yeah.
and he was trying to do it, I think, by himself, and it just went nowhere.
Were they still leasing out a few rooms during that time?
I don't think so, I'm not
Yeah,
sure,
maybe.
I don't know. I don't know how, because I don't know if they have staff anymore. I remember his family lived in California, and I think he ran a hotel out there. And during the summer, his kids, I think they were high school or college age, would come and help him. So maybe they were living in some of the rooms, I don't know. But it was just like a family affair, and it's like, it's not gonna happen.
In 2006 was the last time I remember anything really going on there.
I mean, Hilton is working on it now, and you can see how long it's taking them.
Oh, yeah.
To turn it around, so it's a big job.
Well, I'm sure they're taking out a lot of the heavy Teutonic German stuff that was in there. It was pretty dark in
Not in
there.
style anymore.
Yeah,
I think this would be pretty neat if it was still in the original style.
yeah.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. I just don't know if
So they're getting federal historic tax credits, so they're working through the State Historic Preservation Office who approved their plans. So a lot of the really historic aspects are being preserved. All the guest rooms though, and it's being brought up to
Yeah,
Hilton style.
sure.
But, a lot of the old hardwood trim is still being kept, the marble floors in a lot of the places are being kept.
Yeah. Well, kind of a similar thing's happening. I was talking a little bit before we got going here. My father worked for a while in the Inman Hotel in Champaign. It's no longer independent senior living. It changed. But he lived in there for about 2 or 3 years. And that's also on the National Register, I think, that building. But the new owner it's Royce Brinkmeyer took it over. And they kind of want to turn it into what it was like. It was built, I think, in 1915 or 17. They want to turn it into sort of a downtown place where you can go to have, you can rent a room for the weekend and go. They want to put I think there used to be a cafe on the first floor. They want to rebuild that. So they have kind of similar plans. I think it's going to be more of an Airbnb kind of place, not like a hotel. But I think they're seeing the benefits of having something like that downtown where you can go in for a weekend, football weekend or something, and go downtown. And so yeah.
Well, does anyone have any other questions for our speaker? Len?
Thanks for coming out.
If we can,
Thank
yeah, let's
you.
give him another hand. And then just as a note, on one of Brian's slides, he did have his book on Royer's work and his life that is for sale at our gift shop. So if you ever come to the museum and you want to get a copy, you certainly can. Otherwise,
When you come to the museum.
when you come to the museum, absolutely. Otherwise, next month, Mike Hale and his cohort will be coming and speaking for us on the history of local radio. So keep an eye on our social media pages and our Eventbrite for those. And we hope to see you again then. Otherwise, thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.